Yes, people, what's going on? Welcome to United View, man. Welcome to another Flex's View, another reflection. Yes, you lot seem to like this. I like it. It's when I can just kind of get in my thoughts, react to what's been going on, and just look at things on a little bit of a deeper level. Obviously, today, the situation with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer doing his interview, doing his piece with the overlap, Gary Neville, Jill Scott, Roy Keane and Ian Wright. And you know what? This is my reactions on it. Ole's talking facts. Ollie's talking facts. I think separate the thing of like some sensationalism and revisionism of like people saying, oh, listen, we played better football under Ollie. Maybe we should bring Ollie back. Leave that where it is. Let's not do that. But it was really interesting to see some of the things he said and some of the things he touched on, and how and why he felt like it went wrong at United. He touched on the Ronaldo situation. Basically said that, I'll be honest, probably shouldn't have really signed him is basically what he said. He said it was the right decision at the time, but overall you look back on it, it was the wrong decision. Everyone's obviously talking about the Haaland situation because, you know, he had him at Mulder, had him for 18 months. He goes on to Salzburg. He doesn't play for the first couple of months at Salzburg. He arrives at Manchester United, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer does, and says, listen, there's this kid, I've had him for 18 months, go get him. Man United scouts, yeah, nice. We got enough, mate. We got enough. We'll have a look in a bit. Then he, like I said, he doesn't play for the next few months. Then he starts playing well. Then there's another release clause for 60 million euros when bigger teams are there. And obviously it's still too late. But Ollie still felt we could have got him. But for 20 million, it was there and we couldn't get him. That's something. It's not something like it's new news. Like we know that is the case of the scouts and the hierarchy at Man United and the bad decision after bad decision at Man United. But at the same time, it's still alarming because up until now, where Sir Jim Ratcliffe's coming in and wants to undo all this and redo it, which is what we want to see, it's what's currently happening at the club, even in Erik ten Hag's tenure. He basically says that, they didn't really want to listen, but he did say that I had veto on the players. I didn't sign a player that I didn't want to sign. And they tried to push him on sort of the budgets and stuff, and it's like they'll come to you with sort of 5 players and say, right, he's 100 million, he's 60 million, he's 40 million, he's 20 million, and then you decide which one you want, and then it does fall into the budget, etc., etc. So I just look at that and say, common theme, Ollie. Another thing I thought was alarming, which again feeds into probably where we're at now or where we have been of recent times, obviously post Ollie and when Ollie was there. He was talking about the players, right, and like some of their mentalities. Now, some of it was talking about the mental health side of the game in terms of some of the players been struggling, and you know he would never repeat, and nor should he. It's completely private, but he dealt with a lot of players who like having issues sort of mentally to the point where Gary Neville asked him, like, saying, was there a situation where like people didn't want to be captain? Like, what was that? They didn't want to be club captain. And Ollie said it wasn't that they didn't want to be club captain. It's like certain players would refuse the armband for a game. Gary Neville's like, that's like one of the biggest honours you can get at Man United, like to be able to lead the team out. But there's 2 ways of looking at that. One, the players were just shook. The players were just scared. There's no real leaders in that dressing room that when the times were tough, they want to step up to the play and say, give me the armband. Big culture problem at Man United. Again, these are things that we already knew. These are things that we've been saying. And even up until now, we're still saying it. Big culture problems where nobody wants to step up and take the armband. And then he was like, yeah, and they wouldn't even tell me direct. You know, some of them will, you know, tell their agents or like tell some of the other coaches and or another player, say, oh yeah, you know, so, and he didn't say names, so-and-so don't really want the armband. You know, it's not really for him for this game and stuff like that. And, you know, Roy Keane, you know, one of Man United's best ever captains after Brian Robson, really. He's going, what is this? And again, it's not new news. We already know that that's what it's like in the dressing room, or it has been. And even the situation about the media, he said that players didn't really want to do, a lot of players didn't want to do the pre-match. And he mentioned the same names who normally do, which is kind of the same now. He said, you know, Bruno would always do it, Harry Maguire would always do it. He said that Luke Shaw would always do it, Scott McTominay would always do it, Victor Lindelof, the kind of the good speakers. And he was, look, some players, personality-wise, they don't like to do that. Some players, you know, say to themselves, I'm not really a media person, I'm not really somebody who can do that. But again, it's the lack of leadership. It's the lack of leadership within the squad and the lack of players in the squad that say, you know what, I'm up to the task. Do you know what I mean? And that is a problem. That is a big problem. And the players didn't want the pressure. And when you're trying to build a team to go further, to do more, like, you're going to be in trouble if you haven't got the right characters. And that goes down to the types of players you're bringing in, the type of culture that's within the football club. And again, when Harry Maguire got given the armband, he did defend Harry Maguire and said, look, he was really after Mykonos. He had a tough time. And, when Ronaldo came and when Varane came and, big players like that, it's very difficult for Harry Maguire to pull rank. And he suffered from that. And he said that Bruno has captain tendencies. He has the capability to be captain. But he said, I always told Bruno, he gets over-emotional. And we're seeing that now as well. It's the same thing. So, look, Ollie, in those moments, Ollie didn't tell us surprises, but it was interesting to see him sort of highlight the things that were wrong then. And even under Eric, we can pretty much nail down the same things as being wrong at the football club. He also said, which I thought this was probably the most interesting thing I took from it, was that he's saying that, look, we finished second and third, right? So we've got Champions League. Okay, cool. The bit where, and obviously Europa League final, we couldn't win, and he said obviously that's the fine margins that can give you a little bit more credit in the bank to stay on and stuff like that. But he said that when we signed Varane, Sancho and Ronaldo, it was almost like he felt an obligation, excuse me, to play more on the front foot. He's saying, look, at Old Trafford, with these types of players, we can't stay playing like this on the back foot. We can't stay playing on the counter attack. I need more. I need more from that. And then those two games, those three games, what we saw, right? When we saw the likes of Jadon Sancho, needed the water there. That production knows. When we saw the likes of Jadon Sancho and Ronaldo and Varane. And there was a game against City, the game against Spurs, and a game against Liverpool. I think it was Liverpool, Spurs, Man City. And he said the players that I had then thought they were better than that. They thought, you know what? We want to play on the front foot. Like, we want to go for them. And at home, at Old Trafford against Liverpool/City as well, Ollie felt obliged to. He was like, I need to kick this on. I need to take the next step as this with this group. And in seasons gone by, like when Ollie first got there, you had Andreas Pereira who'd run round like a headless chicken. You had, obviously, Fred who was still there. Jesse Lingard, Dan James. And he said, now I don't have them types of guys, so I had to play differently. And it was really interesting to see that he said, but really, we went for it and we got absolutely smashed. We wasn't ready to take the step. And that's kind of where Man United are at now. It's like we had a good first season with Eric Ten Hag, finished third, got a Carabao Cup, got to the FA Cup final, okay, and lost. But it's like, kick on now, show a better style of play. But we're still seeing the same thing. We're still seeing us being pragmatic. We're still not seeing the patterns of play. We're not seeing Man United go on the front foot. Yes, there's been injuries. But Ollie got to that same point and then tried to change it and make that leap up. And it's just that the players aren't good enough. The players aren't good enough, which then in turn goes back to the recruitment and again of up above, which obviously wasn't right at the time when it was Ed Woodward and Richard Arnold, etc., along with the Glazers and that. Like, how do we want to play? What do we want this Man United team to look like? How are we going to get this team on the front foot when we're constructing a team of Sancho and Varane and now Casemiro and all these players, Bruno, Rashford? How are we going to incorporate all these guys? Like, what do we want to look like? And it was like the plan just wasn't there. And he said that in the Ronaldo situation as well, that he said he agreed with Ronaldo that every 4 games he'd play him for free and drop him for 1. But then when it would get to the dropping him for 1, Ronaldo would just fucking lose his shit. And it's like, we were competing against that. But Ronaldo's elite of the elite. And Roy Keane's like, mate, that's what Ronaldo is, though. And look, it didn't work. When you look at it, I was there for the first game back for Ronaldo against Newcastle and all of Ronaldo's subsequent games, And at the beginning of it, in this first season, he did score a lot of goals. And also at the beginning of it, it was like it feels good. Wow, oh my God, we've got Ronaldo. This is insane. This is crazy. But when you look at it, it was completely the wrong decision. It was the style of play. He said we just got used to Cavani up front, or whether it was Marcus up front, or Martial up front, or Mason Greenwood up front, And then you bring in Ronaldo and you got to change everything. And he said, without the ball, we became less of a pressing team. He said before Ronaldo got here, we were one of the highest pressing teams. And we did play on the counter. And we did play faster football. We absolutely did. And we saw the problems with Ronaldo. He ain't going to press from the front. So you have to adapt. And then it all felt like a pack of cards because you then get the identity crisis of trying to be one thing and then you've got to quickly turn into another. So my thoughts on what Ollie was saying is, he was 100% right in all of it. He had some things where he backed Maguire and said, listen, he's a top draw player and this, that and the other. Obviously, he's going to back some of his guys. But do you know what I think? I would love to have been in the room with them with the cameras off. Or not even that. Maybe be Gary Neville and have those phone conversations along the time. And even now of like stuff he wouldn't say on the camera. Because obviously he's not going to take out names. And it's not in Ollie's nature. You know what I mean? He's enjoying his time out and he feels refreshed now, which is good to hear. But there would have been a lot more stories, I think, to hear about of individuals, of what happened. Another thing I want to touch on as well, actually, quickly is the squad size and players being unhappy. Ollie was saying that basically you would have to axe like 14 players from the team. And the squad was too big, it was too inflated, and you got too many unhappy players. And they just stopped playing for you. When you got no chance of playing, you just stopped playing for you. And Jamie Carragher said, well, when you look at like Pep and Klopp, sometimes you see a couple players on the bench and you're like, who are they? There's like 2 or 3 players and they're usually kids who haven't played before and the rest are like senior pros who usually come on and change everything. And you're like, hang on a minute. That's true. Like we once you get too many unhappy players, they start leaking things. They start getting pissed off. They start getting moany and whingy and down in tools and stuff. And Roy Keane, again, because his standards are high, go, look at you, Ollie. No, just like you kept yourself sharp. These are the guys that are going to get you through the game. The squad players, the rotation players, the players on the periphery, they're the guys who are going to get you through the games. They're the guys when it gets to the championship rounds, as they say in boxing, like they're going to carry you over. City do it all the time. Players coming off the bench to impact the game. Look at someone like Julian Alvarez. He understands his role, understands his position. Look at someone like Akanji, in then out. Look at someone like John Stones, you know, like he understands when he's going to be needed. Look at Phil Foden's had to wait. Look at Liverpool. Sometimes Darwin Núñez wasn't even starting. Sometimes he's playing on the left. Then it's Diaz. Then Jota's waiting his turn. You know what I mean? Like that's just what it is. Harvey Elliott's waiting to come on and change the game. So is Curtis Jones. It's like Gravenberch. These players, it's like they know that they're not guaranteed to start, but there's enough buy-in to know that they're going to have a role. And that's just, again, cultural. It's cultural and not being able to keep players happy. And that, again, is why I want to scrap it all and start again. Obviously, it's going to take time. I know you can't do that in one window. But yeah, my overall thoughts on what Ollie said was Ollie speaking the truth, man. He was speaking the truth. He highlighted a lot of things that we did know. I thought it was a good piece. If you haven't watched it, check it out. It's on the Overlap. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think Ollie was waffling? Do you think he's talking a load of rubbish? Or can you see where he was coming from with a lot of the things he says and basically you weren't really surprised? Anyway, smash the like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. I'll see you on the next Reflections. Probably after the next game against Everton. Take care. Peace.